nice. You never know if it could change your life. Take a chance, you're neither wrong or right. You never know if you don't roll them dice.
Yeah, we're gonna jump right into this. Hello everyone, this is Dungeon Master Dunn. I'm Dungeon Master Rob.
I'm Dungeon Master Matt.
And we have a pretty heady topic today. We're gonna be talking about, whether or not, we're going to talk about a potential 6th edition, or 5.5 possibly. Initially, it was like, do we need a 6th edition? But let's all be honest here, folks. There's going to be a 6th edition. Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but someday.
But one day.
One day. Yes, there's going to be a 6th edition. So we might as well talk about it now. And if, I don't know, maybe somebody's listening, they'll listen to what we care about. But, there's a lot to talk about, and hilariously, to people who are not in our hobby, probably the most contentious thing of any conversation topic that you could have with another player of Dungeons and Dragons is asking about editions, what their favorite is, what their problems are with them. So this is something that we are very excited to talk about.
There is something about editions that rubs people like you can have a conversation. I was having a conversation with someone who really loves Forgotten Realms. Mm-hmm. And as listeners of the show know, we like it just fine, but we're not super into it. And they didn't like Eberron. And you know what? There was no contention in that conversation. There's no animosity, right? Mm-hmm. People can get along just fine about campaign settings and everything else, but for some reason, editions strike at some nerdy core of rage in our hobby.
Editions are like the DC and Marvel of Dungeons and Dragons. It just people invest a lot of their selves. I think it's because a lot of us grew up playing these games, and so we have a certain nostalgic attachment to certain properties or certain types of editions, and people become very invested in it. Also, we're all highly emotional nerds who pretend that we're rational, but in reality we are all deeply affected by our emotions like all human beings are, and we behave irrationally when it comes to certain things that are close to our hearts.
Right. Nerds are Klingons and not Vulcans, despite
Correct.
Everything
exactly.
You thought you knew.
And you should be proud to be a Klingon. You think you're a Vulcan, but the Klingon is the greater of the two races.
Just embrace it.
Embrace it.
Blow up your own freaking moon. Do it.
Embrace those passions. Yeah. Blow up your moon. So we're going to talk about 6th edition.
Blacktar.
We're gonna talk about editions. We're not going to talk about past editions. We already did that. We will talk.
Someone sent me my favorite article of all time from 2009. It's like Star Trek fans in uproar over new J.J. Abrams film. They call it watchable, exciting, an action-packed thrill ride. Fun for people of all backgrounds. Star Trek fans outraged there's no 2-hour scene of people sitting around a table discussing the ethics of saving the Andorran ambassador.
This is funny because it's one of the same things that people complained about with 5th edition. Some people get very
It's too fun.
It's too fun. It's too accessible.
It's too easy.
How dare you?
I can understand most of the things.
Yeah, everything makes sense. So let's start with the core question, which is, do we need a 6th edition? Right? That's where we started, right? We're gonna talk about this, and then the answer is whatever the answer is, we're gonna get one anyway. So we're gonna talk about what's gonna be.
Well, and that's the thing. Why are we're gonna get one anyway? Because Wizards of the Coast is a company, and eventually they'll need to release new core books to get that. That's what makes them the most money, right?
Right.
And it's a dangerous thing, right? Because releasing new editions divides people and all that kind of stuff. But they'll want to do it eventually. Yeah. And role-playing games evolve. People notice errors. Things accumulate.
Sure.
Yeah, it's just inevitable. People come up with
changes.
New, better ideas.
Yeah, ideas advance. Fiction becomes more interesting and diverse. New ideas become popular. It's normal to need to refresh this, the setting. The question is whether or not we need to do it as often as it happens or in the way that it happens. So I have an opinion on this.
Okay.
And my opinion is actually that we don't need a 6th edition, not anytime soon. And I want to tell you my perspective on this because it may not be what you think.
Okay.
So me personally,
I'm open.
Rob, I would love a 6th edition. And Matt and I are going to talk about all of the things that
all the nerdy things that we want.
And that we dislike about 5th edition or that we wish could be better. But I run games for, at this point, 10 to 15, I have 2 or 3 games, 10 to 15, rotating players, most of whom are new. And if you asked almost any of them if they wanted a 6th edition, they would not know what you were talking about and also not care. And so from my perspective, yeah. I think that the game is in a really, really good place. I think a lot of people are invested in things like Critical Role and the Adventure Zone that run in 5th edition. I think there's a ton of properties out there that sort of like hinge on the simplicity and accessibility of 5th edition. I don't think there have ever been more people interested in D&D and playing D&D. And I don't know that there's really any need at this point to jeopardize that by changing editions. Now, Critical Role started in Pathfinder, right? Or 3.5, and then switched. It started in 4th, and then switched to 5th edition, somewhere along the way. So it's entirely manageable. It's right. Just, I don't, from like a player perspective, I don't think that there's any reason to move to 6th edition anytime soon.
No, I was playing a Pathfinder game with some very new people, and I had basically pared the rules down. No one had anything complicated. And then when 5th edition came out, I basically changed all their character sheets for them, and they were like, "Wow, this is much easier. I understand everything," and it worked just fine. Yeah. And they didn't really understand what was going on. They were all very new players, and this was like in the 4th session. But yeah, 5th edition is so easy.
It's so easy.
So nice.
And it has brought in a lot of people who otherwise would find D&D inaccessible. And so 6th edition might be easier, but for what I assume is a large number of players who came in only after 5th edition, I would be very curious about the numbers, but I'm guessing that close to half to a majority of players actively playing D&D are people who didn't play very much before 5th edition. And it's going to be their first time going through an edition change. Us grognards, Matt and I, who've seen, the game change from, AD&D 2nd edition all the way to 5th, we can deal with an edition change easily. But somebody who's only ever played 5th is going to find this. It's not intuitive that the game is going to, the rules are going to change radically after you've been playing for, a few years.
Right. And I think, so one of the things I'm very frustrated about this is Roll20 has stopped releasing their, numbers and reports. If anyone has access to those, please send them to me. Maybe I just couldn't find them. But if you remember, last year, our Dungeons and Data episode, 5th edition is growing exponentially fast. At least it was up until the first quarter of 2018.
And that's great, and we love that, and that's good. That brings more players into the hobby. That makes more opportunity for more developers and more players and more creative interpretations. It's a huge net good. Now, so here's what's interesting is that 4th edition was an attempt to broaden the game specifically targeted at video gamers, which was in my opinion, strategic error. Yeah. But it had
a huge blunder, and basically one that Wizards has copped to at this point.
Yeah. But I understand what they were trying to do. And 5th edition was a much better and more educated change to tack toward a new and less crunchy audience. And it's been a huge success. It's been an incredible
It had a good play test. They really thought it out. They took a long freaking time to make it.
6th edition could be a similarly inspired change. And so if they're going to when they do it, if they can think of a way to continue to make it more accessible and broaden the appeal, then it can only be good. The thing is that as it is, 5th edition is already doing a great job of doing that, so there's no need to reinvent the wheel.
I think, so again, I don't think either Rob or myself think any sort of new edition in any form is going to emerge anytime in the next 3 or 4 years. I think in 3 or 4 years, you'll start to hear a conversation about it.
Yep.
And the big question is it going to be like, are they going to just revise 5th edition? I think that's one option. To like keep things mostly the same, where that, stat blocks and old adventures could basically be used unchanged, but just mixing a few things up. I also think they could do another major shakeup to make the game even more simple. The thing that I think would have to happen between then is another game becomes popular enough that it rivals D&D to some degree.
So this is my caveat, and that's a great point, Matt. So the thing that would necessitate a 6th edition is if a competitor comes along. So there doesn't appear to be anything on the horizon, though.
Right.
I know
even
Matt is
Savage Worlds, even Burning Wheel, even all the Powered by the Apocalypse games, they're still tiny compared to D&D.
I know Matt is not optimistic, though I think after a year of playtesting, we'll see. It could be that Pathfinder 2.0 is a serious competitor to 5th edition. We'll see what that ends up looking like. We've already talked about the things that it does better than Wizards. The other thing is that just, I'm going to say something unkind, but the main thing that Wizards of the Coast and Dungeons & Dragons has going for it is sort of like rock solid, unimpeachable, ironclad name recognition. Yeah. Wizards is not a well-run company. They don't get a lot of support and assistance from their parent company. They make a lot of extremely questionable business decisions. They're substantially better than they were in the past, but kill me for saying this, but there is room for a disruptor. Somebody...
Well, I would say that Wizards is actually a pretty good run gaming company. As a general company, they're poorly run. But compared to most gaming companies, they do a lot.
Sure.
But they're constantly dicked over by Hasbro and all that stuff. Nothing against the individual game designers there.
No. The game designers are terrific.
Structural.
It's structural and it's business decisions. No. The game designers are incredible. 5th edition is the best that D&D has been in decades. It's wonderful, but
what you're saying is someone could try and take them out if they didn't have the name recognition. If they did,
so
yeah, that's true. I don't think anyone. I don't even think they would dispute that.
I don't think they would dispute that either. And it's not like a serious problem, but I don't know. Maybe some billionaire decides to like throw his weight behind, some recognizable property, or Blizzard
God help us if a D&D fan becomes a billionaire. What's going to happen?
God help us. Notch decides to launch, Minecraft RPG or something like that from his candy mansion. I don't know. Blizzard launches a World of Warcraft RPG that's actually well written or something like that. I just, none of these things seems likely. But these are the things that would, I think, necessitate a 6th edition and would potentially, like 4th edition did, reveal the flaws and holes in Wizards' strategy and in the D&D setting and, campaign or rule set in general.
I think one thing that could happen in the next 10 years, and this is getting really speculative, is a company that's sort of positioned itself as kind of an alternate reality video game company like Niantic, who was working on like a giant Harry Potter game. They're the one who made Pokemon Go, right? They have billions of dollars. If they come up with some kind of tabletop role-playing game that successfully incorporates some kind of video game that you can play on your phone and then crosses over, that could be... I don't know exactly what that would look like. If someone could do that, people would love it.
The thing is, and this is normal for us and for probably everybody listening, but like an RPG like D&D still necessitates buying, close to $100 worth of books and, maps and materials and tokens, and we love that stuff, and that's always going to be fun. But if another company comes along with a way to make this even easier, again, God help me, an app or, cheaper books or books that, I don't know, a subscription service that like delivers books to your doors. Again, none of this would be interesting to me. But
it's like if Wizards just charged $10 a month to have access to the complete rule books and every published adventure.
Right.
I mean, I would pay that for the rest of my life.
And I can't see any of this happening like on its own, but like the right company with the right backing, with like the right marketing buzz could upend D&D's, 30, 40-year stranglehold on the market.
We don't think that's likely, but that could happen. If that doesn't happen, and I don't think it will, I think the most likely thing is in 3 or 4 years, we'll hear rumors of kind of a revised edition. I don't even think they'll call it a new edition, right? Because they have so many new players who aren't even thinking of edition change. They'll just call it like, the reissuing of the Player's Handbook, the Monster Manual, and the Dungeon Master's Guide, and it will be slightly different. Yeah. And it'll be so close that, you could use an NPC stat block from the old Monster Manual against your players from the new one, and it would be about the same.
I agree.
That's my prediction.
I think it'll probably be more like 3.5, 3 to 3.5 than it will be from 3.5 to 4 or 4 to 5.
And I don't think it'll actually come out for at least 6 years.
I agree. I think that
it's like 2025.
Yeah, I agree that barring some sort of major market disruption or a push for increased profits at Wizards or whatever, declining sales from campaign setting books or something like that, that there's no reason for them to change it right now. But who knows what dictates the minds of corporate finance.
Okay, so I think we have 2 other things to talk about, 2 big things. If there's a new edition, right, which we say it will happen eventually, it's probably going to be a long time. What do we think the most likely changes would be from Wizards? And then, of course, what we would actually like to see in a new edition.
Well, before we get into that, I have one thing. I really want to talk about this, but I have one thought.
One more thing, Jackie.
And I was thinking about this as I was wondering, why do we need a 6th edition? We talked about this at the beginning. The reason why there's always going to be a new edition is because Wizards is a company. They have to make money. This is one of their biggest, forms of financing, future books is releasing new core rule books that they sell. And Matt, if we lived in a socialist utopia where Wizards was able to just create whatever they wanted and weren't subject to the whims of the market, structurally, what would a role-playing game look like? You understand what I'm asking? So, let's pretend for a second that there's only ever going to be one more edition. There's one, super edition, and it's been restructured so that players don't have to continue to buy new things to stay up to date. So if they didn't need to make obscene profits, right. I don't know, let's assume some sort of market socialism. They're still selling something. Let's pretend that they are more motivated by creating rich and interesting and ongoing game, and there's not going to be any need for a revised edition.
I know where you're going.
Yeah.
And the crazy thing is, and this is all about the world we live in, not about role-playing game desires, is we have the technologies to have books work in a different way, right? So there's already things like D&D Beyond, which is, I think, weirdly not owned by Wizards and things like that. It's another huge boner on their business in part. But where you could, for example, update and expand and enhance books at a periodic basis. You could easily have access to past versions. Imagine if there was a yearly update to the monster manual where new monsters were added or things that were found to be broken were revised. But like Wikipedia, right? You could easily pull up the fast versions. You could use it on your phone, on your computer, or you could send it off to a print-on-demand service or something like that if you had to have a physical copy.
This was what was great about the early days of Pathfinder, was that it was specifically open source, that it was billed as such. And so you had all of the tools that you needed to create your own subclasses, your own templates, your own adventures, right? And I'm just imagining, of course Wizards can still own the property and can still make money and can still, be, the arbiters of what is D&D. But imagine if we didn't have to have, a new release every 5 to, 10 years or whatever. And you just had a constantly evolving, growing, updated, very open source, publicly available document or series of documents that everybody could access and work within. Wouldn't that be interesting? I guess is what I'm saying.
It would be so fun. It would be it would basically end this conversation, right?
It would.
When it would be cool.
And what we said earlier, like there's always going to need to be changes to be made, updates, things change, new ideas come to the front. There's always going to need to be, a refreshing of the text. But there, I think, could be, in a different world, a better way of doing this. But enough of my utopian fantasizing. Let's get down to nuts and bolts about what will we want to see in 6th edition.
Well, Rob, through my very scientific analysis of all 3 core rulebooks, I think I've identified the 4 sort of holy grails, the 4 pillars of D&D that I don't think will ever be changed or messed with. Right?
I love this.
And you've got to have this. We'll call them the 4 princes of the apocalypse.
That's right.
The 4 nodes of elemental evil. They are 6 ability scores, classes, races / ancestries, and a D20 mechanic as the core of the game. That's, I think, all it is, right? I don't think any of those in any kind of edition are ever going to go anywhere.
Yeah, I think that's probably true.
I think what we could hope for, and we've talked about extensively on this show, is changing the word race to ancestry, changing how that works, and making maybe backgrounds for players an optional 5th pillar.
Backgrounds we've talked about before, kind of a missed opportunity, I think. More power should be given to your background than is currently in the setting. And it's frustrating because they clearly like the backgrounds and they gave them pride of place in the handbook, but you can safely ignore them and not really miss anything in character creation.
The other thing is backgrounds have all this cool stuff with traits, flaws, and bonds, yet so many times when I'm making characters or seeing my players make characters, their traits, flaws, and bonds have to do with something that doesn't really have to do with their background, right? Mm-hmm. If you're a paladin now, maybe it matters less that you were a noble before, right? And there's just other opportunities. I'd like to see backgrounds expanded and then decoupled from traits, flaws, and bonds.
I agree. Yeah.
I think so again, these are the things I think we could reasonably hope for, right? I would like to see more alternative rules in general, right? The DMG did a good job of squeezing in a few, but I would really like to see D&D embrace the sort of diversity of play. And I think if you go anywhere, you'll see there's a million different house rules that people are using. Right. They should attempt to embrace those.
There were good rules in previous editions for variant words of power, PowerPoints instead of fancy and casting. None of these.
Well, the DMG has rules for spell points.
Sorry, I know they have them. Yeah. I'm not as big of a fan. They just were more thoroughly developed, and there were more of them in previous editions. And maybe they'll release a book with a bunch of variant rules. But I think they should. I agree with Matt. I think they should embrace this. I think they should give DMs and players the tools to embrace diversity of play. Borrow some things from Apocalypse World and other different from Fate and from other RPG settings that RPG systems to embiggen and.
For example, thinking about there's rules for the grid, and there's a little bit of stuff on Theater of the Mind. I would love for there to be 3 whole sections on playing on a grid, playing on a Theater of Mind, playing on a grid light where you just have general distances and ranges close and far, and finding a way to easily convert all the rules to that kind of thing. So yeah, just lots of options from. It can be alternate death rules to alternate Theater of the Mind rules. Maybe there needs to be an alternate rules book. Another Unearthed Arcana.
You can also dump these in a little sidebar. And, there'll be a bunch of sidebars that say, alternate rule. And here's the rules. And that's easy to do. And they can easily distinguish that so that people don't get confused. But
that's really the genius of D&D is everyone plays it. If they make it so that you can tell all kinds of different stories with it, that will keep them in the top spot, in my opinion, as all these new players slowly progress into being I want to try something different.
I liked I liked your 4 pillars, and I've been thinking about ability scores, and this is something I know they're not going anywhere. I agree with you.
Yeah, no sane person would say the best way to describe a character in fiction's abilities is 6 scores, 3 mental, 3 physical.
Right.
What is charisma, Rob?
This is probably like the hardest thing to explain to my new players. I'm like, these are very important, but also you don't like have to, I don't know, coming up with ways to like describe your character, you know, when they've got 18 strength and like trying to explain to players like, yes, you're very strong, but like you don't have to be like, you know, you're not Arnold Schwarzenegger if you don't want to be. There are other ways to like conceive of your character. You can also be a good talker, even if you don't have, you know, 16 charisma. And there are a couple things here, like we said, I don't think there's any chance of them going anywhere.
Right.
But there
Those
are ways...
will be the 6 ability scores till the end of time.
To the end of time. But there are other ways. So there's a couple things. So one thing that I liked, and I forget which edition of Star Wars this is from, and it's tricky to balance, but your saving throws could come from one of 2 different
This was
abilities.
4th edition D&D.
Oh, that's right. It was 4th edition D&D.
And
Sorry.
Saga edition.
And Saga edition. Sorry. I actually learned it from Saga edition. I forgot it was in 4th edition. So I really liked that. And the reason why I liked that is for 2 reasons. Because mechanically, it allowed for players with different strengths to still be good at the same kind of thing. Like you can be tough in more than one way, right? You can be strong or you can be hardy, right? And you would be able to resist certain saving throws with 2 different skills. It also reduces like the complexity of like, you know, you have like a toughness saving throw and a mind saving throw and like a, you know,
right.
agility. And that's already
this was
like,
a great innovation of 4th edition. It was put on the chopping block for the simplicity and where everything is basically an ability check, right? An attack roll, a saving throw, a skill, they're all ability checks. And it makes it super simple.
It does make it simple. I do wish they would bring it back because I think in the end it is more simple and also adds some character and player diversity. And it helps players understand that while these ability scores are important, there are different ways of understanding what they mean to your character, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, that's an excellent point, Rob. And one thing I would have to say about ability scores is that the one frustrating thing about the pairing of ability scores with classes is because ability scores are so important in 5th edition, like you can't be a good melee fighter if you have 12 strength, right? In older editions, you kind of could. Mm-hmm. Is that you can't be, there's really no incentive to be a charismatic fighter or something like that. I will make those characters and I will play them, but I will do so knowing they are not going to be as good as other things. So I think 5th edition puts too much emphasis on ability scores, while at the same time, ability checks can be really swingy, right? I don't know. I wish there was a way to de-emphasize the bonus from ability scores and add in more emphasis on proficiency.
And I know why they've done this. It's for simplicity's sake. And in previous editions, you could make a smart fighter or a charismatic fighter. You know, in Pathfinder, there were things that even give you damage bonuses from other ability scores. You just have to have extreme system mastery and like 7 books to do it. So that's not really the answer either. But if you want to be a smart fighter, that should be an option. And it shouldn't have to be so complicated. And I don't know that there's like a super easy, balanced solution to this, but it is maybe like the number one thing that I would like to see from the next edition is your class defines how you approach sort of like certain problems, but it doesn't require you to be like to have like certain ability scores, right?
You can't be a strong monk, for example, right? Which drives me bananas, right?
Drives me crazy, yeah.
Right? You can't be, you can be a charismatic rogue, but, you're probably better off putting, making sure you have that 20 dexterity first. And I think the solution to this is, I think it's on our homebrew page, you can look at my alternate proficiency rules where you can, as you level up, your actual skill and practice matter more than your raw potential. Fighters
should be able to include both, Driz Do'Urden, but also, Inigo Montoya, somebody, dexterous and, good at talking and, skilled at many things. They're both very obviously fighters. Only one of them is really modelable in Dungeons and Dragons, though.
I expect maybe some changes to ability scores. I definitely expect in a revised 5th edition that we've convinced ourselves this is going to happen in 6 years. I think feats being simplified. I think ability score improvements could be reworked to happen more often. I think feats aren't quite there. They're a little clunky. And I expect those to either be made where the original idea was they would be completely in alternate handbook rules. And I think they could go with that. I think if they made them half feats where they all added up to half an ability score improvement, that would work. I think one of the other big problems is magic items, right? We could do a whole episode on this.
Well, magic items is a big problem. I want to touch on feats though first because I think that this is actually more important than
people give it credit for,
because it's obvious in at least the PHB that feats were an afterthought, or that they weren't really sure what to do with them.
Some of them don't work. Some of them don't actually do anything. Rules as written, right? There was obviously some problems.
Yeah, and they're listed as alternate or variant rules already. And the thing is, I get why feats are tricky and why they tripped people up, and they were awful in 3.5 and a very unfun mechanic, especially if you wanted to do anything interesting as a martial character. But I think feats are great. And I think feats in general, the idea is giving your players the ability to do something, again, extraordinary.
That's outside their class
It's
parameters.
outside their class parameters. And this is one of those things that we were just complaining about. I do feel like D&D wants every rogue to sort of fall into a couple of different archetypes, or every fighter to fit within a framework. And that's the bad instinct, I think. And feats are one of the things that allows you to say, I'm a sorcerer, but also I know how to grapple or something, and sometimes that's mechanically powerful, and sometimes it's just an extra option or fun.
All right, Rob, I'm going to have to, when this episode comes out, and link it in the description, my alternate rules for half feats. I feel like it solves 90% of the problems with feats, and that some are things you'll never take, and others are absolutely essential. If you break them down to a feat is worth 1 ability score improvement, it doesn't, kill your character to take a feat. And then I think... I don't think you actually have to do this, but I like things chunked out a little bit more. I would have feats be an optional rule every even level, right? Instead of every 4 levels.
I agree. I agree with that as well. What I would like to see, and I actually think this is actually a pretty simple fix, is to give feats for free. I don't know, every 3rd level.
Take a whole ability score improvement to be able to wear medium armor. It's just insane.
Just give feats for free. Maybe 1 every 5 levels. I don't know. The balance is not important to me, but give them for free. Don't make your players choose between ability score improvement and feats, and just write them better. As they are in 5th edition, they clearly weren't given enough attention. There are ways to write good feats that are balanced, that aren't game breaking, and are interesting, and you just need to do it. I just this is something that I think that they couldn't decide whether or not they wanted to include them, and I'm frustrated because I think as you will hear from us talking over the course of this podcast, I think the major problem with 5th edition is that it doesn't allow for enough diversity of character types, and that is a major failing, especially as players get more creative and want to do more interesting things and want to tell different types of stories.
I think feats could easily be reworked in a revised edition. I think species and races, as we've talked about before, are another easy fix that I expect Wizards to actually make. I think they will try and do something different with magic items. I think what this will end up looking like is them writing a bunch of rules for a bunch more low-level magic items. I don't think they're going to rework the whole thing, and alternate rules with prices for magic items.
We've talked about this before. I don't have a super good solution for magic items either, because you definitely don't want it the way that it was before, where it was having to buy a +1, +2, +3 sword every few levels, and keeping track of making sure that you had all of the best, your updated natural armor amulet, and that your, cloak of resistance was up to date. That was no fun bookkeeping and required for high level play, and it was that's not the right answer either. But my major frustration as a DM is rewarding players and answering their questions when they ask about magic items. And as it is in both the DMG and the player's handbook, you the DM, basically have to invent from whole cloth like what the magic item economy looks like in your game, because it is not there.
Just some, and this could be an alternate rule for those people who are like, I don't want a magic item economy. Every magic item is so rare and precious, everyone would murder for it. But just having that option has to be there. One other flaw that I feel like is really baked into the core of 5th edition that I don't actually think they will address is that high-level characters don't feel as powerful as they did in previous editions, right? Because of the way bounded accuracy and things like that are set up, you still miss a lot. Monsters at high level have just so many hit points, right? Now, I think this is probably better than in earlier editions when high-level fights might have lasted one round. But at the same time, you should feel like, when you're 15th level, you should feel like you could conquer a continent if you wanted to. I don't think they'll address this, but I think this needs to be fixed. That was something I would like to see.
Yeah, part of this is the removal of a lot of save or die spells as well, or save or die abilities too. Which I generally agree with, and I think is a good change. Those were not fun for a lot of people, but the removing a lot of the very high level, again, both abilities that players got and spells they could cast that would, be sort of earth shaking and impressive.
It's also like I had a 10th level rogue, and their plus to hit, even with a magic item, was only a plus 11 at the end of the campaign. And that meant I would hit a guy with plate armor just around half the time, right? It's like, oh, that's not that much better than the plus 5 or 6 I had it at the beginning of the campaign. And it's like, I want to be able to hit mooks all the time. I don't think they can change it. I think it's baked into the rules. But I just want higher level characters to feel more powerful.
Yeah, and this can kick in, like Matt said, around 15th level. Like you can have them, because any sooner
it should be a quantum jump of some kind.
Yeah, it should start to scale up pretty quickly, but after around 15th level, and I
think they could also reduce the HP bloat, and this applies to low level monsters too.
Yes.
I'm not sure why some NPCs who are like labeled bandit captain have like 30 or 40 hit points. Like they should have 12 hit points, right? Even a regular bandit should have like 6 hit points.
Every time I pull an NPC, off the cuff, I'm like, why does this have so many hit points?
So I think they might be able to fix hit point bloat. I don't know. The one other thing that I think they could really fix in a revised edition is some of the outlier classes that are just not as fun, classes and subclasses. So here's my thesis, Rob, is that the Warlock is the best designed class in 5th edition. I'm not saying it's my favorite, it's just the best designed.
No, I agree. We talked about this before, and I agree. Here's again, this isn't just my theory. I think this is gospel truth, but what makes a player character powerful in Dungeons and Dragons is options and choice. And Warlock has some of the most. They have spells, they have rituals, they have pacts, they have...
Right. So compared to other classes where you often pick one subclass, a Warlock picks a patron and a pact, right?
And a pact.
And then they get modular choice in their invocations, whatever those are called. If other classes followed this model with 2 big decisions, or like 1 big decision, 1 flavor decision, and then a list of things that you can take, damn son.
And so like a cleric gets what?
A domain.
You
pick it first level, that's it. Clerics should be able to pick a god and like a mission.
Right.
Or
like a subsection of that god's portfolio, a mission, a calling, an implement of faith, any number of different things. Anyway, Matt's absolutely correct in that the Warlock is the best designed, and also I think that Matt is correct in that the sorcerer is the worst design because the options for sorcerer are incredibly limited.
Right. There's nothing in the subclass.
Yeah, there's barely anything in the subclass. And they tried... Okay, so this is something I actually disagree with extremely strongly. They tried to give them a little bit of uniqueness in making meta magic a sorcerer-only ability, which is good, but one, it's not enough. You can't do it often enough or distinctly enough to really like make your sorcerer interesting. But also, meta magic is cool and fun, and I think everybody should have the ability to do it.
Could be a feat.
Could be a feat. Could be a magic item thing. Again, I think it was just like a huge mistake to take that. It was very badly abused in 3.5, but I think it was a mistake to give that to sorcerers in lieu of something actually interesting and flavorful. Because the sorcerer, they already pick less spells. You know, their subclass doesn't really make a huge difference. The only sorcerer subclass that I like is the Divine Soul because it gives gives options, right? It gives you a ton of options.
And I think that's the key of how to fix the sorcerer is so sorcerers are arcane wizards that have innate spell casting as opposed to learn. The difference is they break the rules in some way. Mm-hmm. And the draconic sorcerer is a master of transforming themselves, growing claws, dragon power. The divine one breaks the rules by they can cast healing spells. You know, they just need to lean into that.
Right. Allow sorcerers to cast spells they shouldn't otherwise be able to cast, or cast them. They can already cast more often, but more powerfully. Not, you know, they've tried to do that. They
get magic abilities. Like,
yes,
the warlock is a better sorcerer than the sorcerer because you can be like, oh, I have a pact of the Fae. I'm doing these Fae things all the time. Like that should be.
Yes, again, the sorcerer can cast a lot of spells, and if you run your campaigns as they're supposed to be, as written, with multiple combats, yes, your warlock will probably run out of spells first, but also they can always Eldritch Blast, they can short rest to get their spells back, they have rituals and invocations and all sorts of things. Your warlock is never going to feel like they don't have something to do. Your sorcerer is probably going to feel like they're tired of casting Fireball after the 100th time that they've done it, which is because of the limited number of spells they have and the limited options in their spell class or subclass, that they're going to end up just casting their most damaging spell repeatedly in every combat, and that's going to get old fast.
The other thing I would talk about with classes, other than the fact that we can't make a charismatic druid or a barbarian who uses dexterity.
Oh, yeah, a dex barbarian. Why not? What? Sorry, now I'm angry.
Sorry, now I got Rob real angry.
Sorry, we already talked about this. We don't need to keep harping on it. But it's
rage,
just...
Rob.
Yeah, that's right. I'm raging.
Okay. The other thing is there are some outlier subclasses that really suck. The Monk of the Four Winds, the Beastmaster Ranger, maybe the Ranger in general, but there are just some real stinkers out there. And that's okay. Not everything is gonna work, but those could in a revised edition that's backwards compatible, those could easily be fixed.
Yeah, and
there's
so
no reason that my avatar monk has to be so shitty.
Right, and here's the thing about that is that if you want to release some flavorful but kind of mechanically unimpressive subclasses in a subsequent book, that's great. But your core subclasses should all be sort of equally useful and powerful. And the fact that some of the ones in the PHB are just so garbage, like the Beastmaster, like the Way of the Four Elements monk, everything the sorcerer has,
I feel like the assassin could use some work.
The champion fighter is mechanically powerful but incredibly boring compared to both the Battlemaster and the Eldritch Knight.
I'm okay with it. Yeah, so I think those are easy fixes, right? Yeah. Maybe the class of Ranger and Sorcerer as a whole have always had a problem finding their identity, but there are some subclasses that have some problems. One thing that bugs me that I think could get fixed but probably won't, probably bugs no one else, is I care that the ability scores are mostly balanced in that players have incentives to put points in all of them. Dexterity is, in the current edition, way too powerful in that you can use it for ranged attacks and damage, melee attacks and damage, initiative, defense, and a huge list of skills, right?
And I agree with you. I agree with you strongly. And given that HP is already abstracted so much, there should be another way to get armor class. It shouldn't always be dexterity. And again, this adds complexity, and it's very simple right now, but there's probably a way to like make like a very simple diagram or chart, and I don't know, maybe players can get dex or armor class from strength or from constitution or something, some other way.
Why not? Strength, they're using it to parry and push back attacks. You have to maybe be wearing medium or heavy armor. Yeah. But yeah,
it doesn't have to be super complicated. There can be like a very simple, if this, then here's where your AC comes from.
I've run several like one shots in parties where I've realized no one has a strength higher than 10. Like the incentives for strength are very low.
Strength is a very sad state right now. I in previous editions, just like the fact that you got 1.5 damage when two-handing was enough to like give people strength. I get that Wizards decided that was too complicated to include, but it was pretty simple and probably should go back in so that people have a reason to play a strong character.
You should get a double strength bonus for 2 handed weapons or something.
Yeah, the only people who have any incentive to use strength are literally barbarians because it's written into their class, which is the wrong way to go about it.
You can build, and it just feels wrong to me, you can build a fighter wielding a shield and a rapier that is way better than a fighter wielding a shield and a longsword.
Substantially better.
And it doesn't make any sense, and it bugs me. The other thing is I feel bad for poor intelligence. Intelligence... unless you're a wizard, eldritch knight, or arcane trickster, you have no reason to put points into it. It has very few, very circumstantial skills attached to it. Charisma is important because it's how people perceive you. Wisdom's always important because of the saving throws. There's hardly any intelligence saving throws. Intelligence needs a boost.
Give us more skills. Give us back more knowledge skills. Make them more important,
For every point, and this is a house rule in at least one of my games, in intelligence, you get another skill proficiency or tool proficiency.
And this is a great place for feats, right? A great place for feats is like, here's some things you can do if you're a smart, if you have intelligence. Here's some like applications. They can be mechanical or flavorful.
One of my favorite feats, and it doesn't work because it takes 10 minutes instead of 1, was that feat that lets you inspire your party, right?
Yeah.
You don't have to be a bard, but if you want to be like a inspiring leader and you have a use for your charisma, then there it is.
Yeah.
Okay, one thing I think we haven't touched on is story and mechanics for 5th edition, right? I think what we could hope for and we've talked about this forever, is a greater diversity of campaign settings in a revised edition. I think they might consider it, right? And the other thing is I would be surprised if they didn't steal more rules from some of the most successful storytelling campaigns. Mm-hmm. For example, take a little bit from Burning Wheels, some alternate XP rules from the Marvel superhero role-playing game. I think that's very likely to happen.
I think so too. I think some of the things like bonds from because they already have like a bit of this with backgrounds and flaws and things like that, but the more structured bonds from not Apocalypse World.
Powered by the Apocalypse?
Powered by the Apocalypse. It is.
Well, Apocalypse was the original.
Is one of the Powered by the Apocalypse, or like how Burning Wheel allows you to sort of do like I know a guy, and you make a roll for your circles to see like who you have a contact with, which I think is just like such a great rule. I definitely see a lot more softer, subjective type rules coming in because historically D&D does not trust its DMs to do anything right, and so it feels like it needs to spell out every single thing. I think that they're realizing as the game grows and they're realizing like what types of people are playing it, that they're not going to get in trouble with angry grognards anymore if there's a corner case that's frustrating, even though Chris Perkins is always online answering people who are angry about that. But that's a minority of the player base. So if you include some things that are the DM decides, or this requires the DM to like make a ruling or work with your player to create something, I think we'll see more of those because they realize that People are doing that anyway, and they can probably handle it.
What do you think about the idea that a revised edition might streamline the action economy? The action economy right now is you have a movement speed, you can always move around. You have a attack, or you have an action, you have a bonus action, and then you have a reaction, which is actually a little more complicated than it seems at first reading of the rules.
I think that we are still not there with action economy, and there is still room to improve. I know we've talked about this, and I like what Pathfinder 2.0 is trying to do. I don't think it is particularly well implemented. I don't think it's intuitive, but I think that the idea that you have a certain number of actions or action points or whatever, you know what? I mean, GURPS is not great, but like I like the idea that like you have this many action points, and then you hear this is how much moving takes, this is how much firing a gun takes, this is how much, opening a door takes. And the idea of that is good, and there's a way to make it very, very, very simple. You just balancing that is tricky. But I do think there's room to improve, and I think we're going to see continued innovations in action economy. I do not think 6th edition is going to come up with the perfect version of it, but
they might rework by eliminating bonus actions and making it more simple, the opposite direction. Like every turn you have a movement speed you can take and you have an action, right? Trying to keep things fast and easy. I don't know exactly what that would look like. Bonus actions continue to be a pretty essential part of a lot of character classes. But I don't know. It's confusing for new players. It is confusing.
Bonus actions are difficult.
So anything that's confusing for new players, I think they would attack.
Yeah, the thing is, like all the things we're talking about are actually probably going to be more confusing, and I imagine will probably not end up in the final edition, even though they would make gameplay better and more diverse and potentially less frustrating. I think they're going to, if they make changes, they will be in the direction of being simpler, even if that removes some diversity of play, which I think is frustrating, but I want to be realistic about it.
This is my personal list of things I would like fixed. Here I go. I would like the monster manual to have environmental details on each monster. More details, less stats. I would like them to fix HP bloat. I would like psionics to be part of the core rules. I would like Forgotten Realms to only be one of many locations. I would like an expanded feat list. I would like a revised ranger class with a option for a spell-less ranger as one of the subclasses. I would like bounded accuracy reworked so that high-level players feel better. I'd like there to be an Unearthed Arcana book released along with the 3 major books of just rules options. I would like better encounter building rules in the Dungeons & Dragons things. I would like a guide to running Theater of Mind in the DMG. I would like inspiration fixed and reversed so that players could use it. I would like backgrounds to become an equal part with species or races. I would like races changed to ancestry. I'd like cultural things moved out. I would like sub-races eliminated. I would like better NPC building rules that could also be used for followers or hirelings. And I would like warlocks to be able to choose intelligence as their spellcasting ability. There's a long list of things.
I agree with Matt. I don't have a list. I want to add a couple of things. We've already talked about this, but I would like substantially
and buffing
more...
crits. Crits should be more powerful.
Crits, oh yeah. They nerfed crits, and I know why they did, but make them powerful again. I would like there to be more feats. Give us a whole book of feats. You can do it. It's not that complicated. You're not going to break the game. Don't be afraid of like giving your players choices.
What about tool proficiencies versus skills?
I don't like. I like the idea behind tools. I have been running games in 5th edition for 4 years now. I still don't understand tools. I don't get how they're supposed to work. Like
here's I think the solution, Rob, is you make the one tools that seem to matter, which is riding animals or vehicles and picking locks and things like that. You make those skills, and then you give the dungeon master a list of things that players can also have proficiency in that are not skills, right? And it depends on your campaign and what's important.
Yeah. I mean, I like the idea behind tools. I like the impulse behind it. And some of the tools are neat. They just don't really do anything. And so, my players are like, I have an alchemy toolkit. And they're like, what can I do with that? I'm like,
yeah.
I genuinely don't know. I'm sorry. And I apologize that the book made it seem like that was something important, because it's not. So tools are a good idea that needs a lot more development.
Yeah, I feel like there's a couple things that could be nerfed away in 5th edition, like, a couple spells, but I don't ever really care about those that much. Maybe people always complain about Lucky. It is really good.
Yeah, I don't think there's anything in this edition that is truly game-breaking, which is definitely something that, Wizards in 5th edition deserves credit for. There's nothing that, I feel the need to change. I have a player who's a kobold who gets advantage on every attack, which is super annoying, but it's fine. Because he's got pack tactics, but whatever. Generally, there's nothing that's truly broken, and so I don't know that there's any nerfs that need to happen. Also, philosophically, unless the power level of the game is so high already, just bring everything up to the level of things that are good. Don't nerf unless you're
especially if we're talking about a hypothetical revised edition,
right? I don't think. Again, this is much better than previous editions, but we're well into several book releases, new campaign settings, new expanded player options. I don't think we're seeing much power creep. Not really anything significant that I would see as a problem. So just if it's a revised edition, bring everything up. Make the ranger better. Make the sorcerer more interesting. Just bring some things in line with the more powerful options. Don't nerf anything.
Let's pretend they've fixed a lot of these things. They've better magic item rules, warlock invocation type options for every class in the core handbook. And maybe this will be our final topic here. What would you like to see as additional core species, right? They're called species or ancestries now, or core races included in the player's handbook, if any? Or would you like to keep it simple?
Oh, interesting question. I would like additional, so what's in there now? Human, half-elf, elf, dwarf, gnome, half-orc, what am I forgetting?
Tiefling, and Dragonborn.
Tiefling and Dragonborn are the two I'm forgetting. I would like Aasimar. If you have tapped tieflings, then you need to have Aasimar, right?
I agree.
It doesn't make any sense to have demonic ancestry and not celestial ancestry. So I'd like to see that. I don't have any particular attachment to it, but from sort of a symmetry standpoint, it bothers me that there's only tieflings. I would like to see Genasi. I actually really like Genasi. I think they're a pretty interesting race with a cool or species with a reason to exist. So throw us some water and air and fire Genasi. And I would like to see, I don't know, lizard folk, Tengu.
Yeah, I would like to see one more really weird race that doesn't just look like a human but shorter or taller or something like that.
So add Aasimar or take tieflings out. Just, either or, but definitely give us some weird races. Give me a bird person, give me a lizard person, not a dragon person, a lizard person.
It's a big difference.
Definitely give us a bird person. A Tengu, or I can't say the other one, Arakokra?
Arakokra, yeah.
Arakokra. I like furbolgs.
Furbolgs are fine. For me, I don't actually have any.
Put goblins. I'm sorry, I'm a big goblin fan.
Everyone loves goblins. I would be fine with goblins.
Put goblins in the PHB. They're great.
Yeah. I would. Yeah, there needs to be more small races, right?
Yeah.
I would say I don't actually need any more species. I would just like to see sub races removed and made simpler and backgrounds expanded. Classes, though.
I mean, you and I are probably in perfect agreement with this. Quit fucking around. Release the Artificer.
The Artificer.
Release the Mystic. Put the Artificer and the Mystic in the PHB.
Don't call it Mystic. Call it a Scion.
Call it a Scion, yeah. Don't be coy. Call it a Scion. Call it an Artificer. Put it in the PHB. Give the Artificer a Alchemist subclass and a I don't know, Craftsman subclass or some shit. I don't know, a Gunsmith subclass, just to make everyone happy. Just do it. Just do it. Quit toying with us, Wizards. We know you know what to do.
Release the Scion and then release a Psychic Warrior subclass for the fighter.
Yep.
So I would actually like 15 classes in my core handbook.
Ooh.
I would like all the basic ones. I think they're all fine. They can all stay. And then I would like, as we said, a scion or a mystic, an artificer. And then, you know what? I kind of like the warlord. In one of my space campaigns, I made a consul class that basically, again, a person without magic who was good at knowing things and smart and helping people. It's a little bit in the bard's territory, but I think there's an option for it.
It's like an intelligence bard. No, I think this was, again, something from 4th edition that was good, that they were wrong to cut. I think the warlord is a great type of class and player that's not well addressed by existing options. Give us a commander or a knower of things or somebody, a leader type.
I think the big thing that stands in its way is there's no good name for it, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You could call it a noble, but then that has a certain connotation. So does warlord. I end up calling them consuls in my game, but that was because it was a sci-fi space game. So
yeah, tactician is an option, but it doesn't cover like all of the right choices. Let's brainstorm some ideas for this, because I think you're right that there's like no like one word that really like not like ranger or druid or barbarian that captures like what we're trying to accomplish here.
Right. I want another non-magic class, right? And then the subclasses could be definitely warlord, tactician, erudite, kind of thing.
Yeah, some overlap with the bard, but also, druid overlaps with ranger, and barbarian overlaps with fighter. It's okay if there's like some.
Yeah, there'll be overlap with rogue and bard, and if you're a warlord with fighter, but that's fine.
I agree with Matt that there's a non-magical niche that is not being filled, and it was filled in 4th edition by the warlord. There are other homebrew classes that do this, but I think that there's plenty of room mechanically and in terms of balance to fit that in there. Nice, even 15 classes. Give it to us. Give it to us, Withers.
Yeah.
Okay, well, there's like 1,000 other things to talk about, but I think we've covered a lot of what we'd like to see.
How dare you not talk about the Sorlock?
Yeah, we'd love... Okay. We would love your input, and I don't know, maybe we'll do...
What about your better mount rules? Rob wanted to end, but I said something that...
No, I'm not going to bring up the mount rules. Ideally, again, here we go. The problem is that, like, I would love there to be, like, mount rules or, like, ship rules, but, like, there's no room for that in a PHB. And you don't want to make players like buy another thing. So if there were like a free like mount supplement or a free like sailing supplement, that would be a great thing to include in a potential 6th edition. But we live in a society, Matt, where you have to pay for things.
We do live in a society.
Where you have to pay for things. And so including that sort of thing in like the core isn't going to make any sense. You have to like limit the options. So... in our theoretical, socialist utopia where you can just give people things for free, I would love for them to release a PHB and then like, here's a free book of feats. Here's a free, mounted player's handbook. Here's a free seagoing guide, but I don't see that happening in sort of like a core PHB or in a DM's guide that's going to be reasonably sized. And
even new players are going to find the weird homebrew that people have put online. So you might as well put the official homebrew that was like cut out on there for them.
Right?
I mean, how many of us have had like brand new players of like, I've never played D&D before, but also I found this thing. I'm like, what are you doing? How'd you find this?
Yeah, here's the stats for a centaur race. So I'm going to be a centaur. I'm like, wait, where did you, I'm sorry.
You just learned the concept of a role-playing game a week ago.
Right. Yeah. And now you want to be a gorilla with a gun? I mean, technically, yes, but where did you get these rules from? Yeah.
Yeah, it needs to be more animal races, more gorilla people, more cat people. Make cat people in the in the core rule.
That's right.
Cat people.
Bird people, cat people, lizard people, cat people.
Cat people run.
People want the cat people want the bird people. Put the cat people and the bird people in the book. Yeah.
Cat people versus bird people, our new campaign.
Cat people versus bird people. I love it. Okay, we're losing the thread. We're done. Thanks for listening, everybody. Please go on iTunes, hit that 5-star. It helps people see us.
It really helps us out.
Ramble about cat people. Thanks for listening. If you hate anything that we said or you have suggestions or questions or anything, please email us at dmofnone@gmail.com. Add us on Twitter at dmofnone. Thanks for listening, everybody. I hope you enjoyed this.
See you next time.
See you next time. Farewell.
You didn't say the thing.
I didn't say the thing. I was going to let you say the thing. Stop.
I mean, what if we just stop here without you saying the thing? It'll feel really incomplete, slightly frustrating and irritating.